Well, hello and welcome to the Bowtie Florida room, which is being used today as a seed starting room. So it's getting to be that time of year. It is January 15th, 2023, and it is Onion Day. And I've got a few different kinds of onions here that we're gonna try this year, and I just got some Fairy Moors from the local Lowe's. I go to Lowe's a lot, and thought I'd give some of their onions a try. I've tried onions from a few places now. A little bit about the background on onions and me. This is going to be my 4th year growing onions, and I have not had a lot of success. In fact, I've had almost no success growing onions yet. And we're going to try it again. One more time. And we're going to keep trying until we get onions right, because Mrs. Bowtie likes growing with onions. So here we go. Hi, I'm Bowtie Dave. So I've got a few supplies here that I'm going to be using. The first of which, of course, is seeds. And I have seeds from last year, and I have seeds I just bought. However, I want to talk about the age of onion seeds. Now, onion seeds are, from what I understand, notably limited on their lifespan and how long they're viable. And onions are one of the first seeds that will fail. Most seeds will last for years. In fact, Luke over at M.I. Gardener bought some, I can't remember, 80, 90-year-old tomato seeds in a shadow box at an antiques auction, and grew and is currently selling seeds from a tomato cultivar that basically had been extinct. And so seeds can last a long time, and onion seeds can last a while, but what happens is the germination rate, the rate at which the seeds actually become plants, becomes less and less and less and less over time. And so this set of red burgundy onion seeds, they're Fairy Moors. I use a few Fairy Moors from the local big box. I've had success with them, but this here is actually says packed for 2022, sell by 12/22. Now, the thing is, that is not an expiration date. They're just required to put that on there. That just lets you know when these were actually packaged for. And it says packaged for 2022. That means when they made this, they intended to sell it during the year 2022. And I actually bought this package in 2022. Now, it's been sealed up in a bag. You can actually see there's a little moisture on it, but that was just because I was just bringing in a watering can, so it's not, the package is not wet. But I'm going to plant these seeds out. I'm going to plant them a little thicker because they may not work. And in case they don't work, well, we may lose some or most of it. I don't know, but I'm going to try it. Jess Sowards over at Roots and Refuge says that the seeds that will not grow, the only seeds that will not grow are the seeds that you never give a chance. And I'm going to give these seeds a chance, thanks to Jess. But anyway, so I'm going to try. Now, I did get some brand new seeds just the other day. Was it yesterday? I started some potatoes. In fact, I still have the gnarly potatoes here. Some pretty wild looking things. Look for that video coming out in a few months, because I'm doing a beginning to end kind of thing. So we're from plant to harvest, and see what we can get. However, I did just buy these, and I was looking at the packages, and these two actually say packed for 2023, which is this year, and sell by December of 23. So that means these are pretty current. However, I didn't notice this when I got it at the store. This one here says packed for 22. Yeah, I was very surprised, which means I don't know if we're going to get this sweet Spanish yellow Utah jumbo, but gonna give it a shot. I'm not gonna waste those seeds. The thing is though, you know, this seed packet cost me $1.78. And if I can get 5 onions, 10 onions out of all the seeds that are in here, I've made my money back. Easy. So it's gonna be okay. I do have several seeding trays here. I have 3 of them set up here. We're not gonna use all those today. But I am going to give these a shot. I'm going to give these red burgundy a shot from last year, and I'm going to definitely be giving these Granex yellow PRR hybrid and Texas Grano seeds packed for this year. Definitely give these a chance. I'm going to try to plant a lot of them too, so I would love to get all of these planted. And so that's the life of the seeds. I used to have some onion seeds that I gathered somewhere, and I don't know where they are. So I have a feeling I may have just planted out a bunch. I remember planting out a bunch somewhere that I don't know. We'll just call them gone. But anyway, so as far as the purpose of this video is actually my own log, so I can see what I did. I'm a little bit ADD. It's good to log things. I'm not great with writing stuff down on paper, but I can record a video and I can talk my head off. And if you've been watching any of my videos, yeah, I talk a lot. So that's nothing unusual. Mrs. Bowtie would agree. Wouldn't you, Mrs. Bowtie? She's not listening. Anyway, Mrs. Bowtie would agree. I do talk a lot. So I'm talking to myself mainly. You'll notice there's a lot of really good indexing down in the description of this video and all of my videos, and that is because I go back and look at these videos frequently. Next year when I plant onions again, I'm going to say, what day did I plant those? And I'll look at my calendar, and if I've forgotten to put it in my calendar, I'll go back and look at this video or a Facebook post and maybe look at a picture and figure out what day I planted these out, because I remember thinking, I've got to get these planted out on January 15th. Now, as far as the day to plant it out, we are in Florida, in Destin, in the panhandle of Florida, and we don't get a lot of cold weather. Now, this year has been a little different because we got some cold weather this past Christmas, and we're having a bit of a cold snap right now. It got down to 30, somewhere between 32 and 34 this morning. And it's supposed to get cool tomorrow morning as well. And then it's supposed to be in the 70s for I don't know how long. So it's going to be kind of nice out here. But that's kind of our weather down here. We get a lot of really good weather. Last winter, we got 0 freezes. We got no frost. We went all winter and had beautiful weather. I had tomatoes growing in the garden all winter long. It was amazing. In fact, I had volunteers come up in September, and they lasted until just a few weeks ago when I had to pull them out. We're refilling our beds. And so we do live in a really good growing environment. So onions, a little more temperamental though. We're going to try again for the 4th time. Here we go. Let's see what happens. I'm going to plant them out. If I can get some to take, I'll be ecstatic. Don't know what to say. So, a couple of other notes about onions. There are a few different kinds of onions, a few different ways to classify onions. And one of the ways to classify onions is the length of day that they are categorized as. Now, we are in Florida. Our days in Florida are what we call short day. Florida has, yeah, you think Florida, sun all the time. No. Florida has these days that are short. If you go all the way to the North Pole, think about it, they have days that are 24 hours long. Well, a range from the North Pole to here, they get longer and longer and longer. So if you're in if you're in the Northern America or even southern half of Canada, you're growing a different kind of onion called long day onions. And what that does, what that means is the onions are stimulated by the hours of sunlight they receive. And so you kind of have to be sure to pick out. Now, here's the thing. When you go to the big box store and look for these Fairy Morse, It's nice when they tell you it's a long day or a short day, but they don't always. And you got to be careful. And here in Destin, Florida, at the Lowe's, I'm sitting there looking through the seeds, and there are long day seeds in there. Don't waste your time. They may grow here, but the chances of them being successful are very slim. Now, I know some people actually do grow long day and short day zones and short day and long day zones. There's also an intermediate day zone, and there are some onions that are classified for that. I think I might be able to grow an intermediate. I'm not sure. Now, it might be close, but I don't need to try it because we have plenty of kinds of onions in our short day zone that I can use. Now, I don't want to talk bad about Fairy Morse. I don't want to talk bad about Lowe's. They don't always put on there whether it's a long day or a short day seed. In fact, some of the other seed companies don't always put on there whether it's a long day or short day seed. And it's a little bit annoying because you kind of have to figure it out. Well, the nice thing is, like you can see here, it says onion, Texas grano, okay? You can just go to Google and say, Texas grano is long day or short day onions. And you can find it on Google pretty quick, whether this is a long day or a short day. Now this one here, last words in the description says short day variety. So that's nice. This Granex Yellow PRR hybrid doesn't say one of the sweetest onions, large, thick, flat bulb shape with very white, mild flesh, stays firm, crisp, and sweet when stir-fried or used in salad. Says nothing about short day or long day. Yeah. So, what is this one? This is the Sweet Spanish Yellow Utah Jumbo. No, nothing about short day or long day. So you gotta have to look these up on Google, and you can typically find out what variety they are and so forth. Now, let's see. Long day, short day. Okay, the next thing is my A.D.D brain just slipped. Forgot where I was going. So some of you know I have watched a lot of YouTube, and I continue to watch a lot of YouTube to learn how to do stuff that I'm learning. And folks, I'm learning. This is my 4th year gardening. We bought this house a little over a year ago. We had a big garden last year, and I had a lot of failures this past year. We were learning our new soil, we're learning our new beds, we're learning our new sun, and we had a big old tree hovering over our garden, so we had a lot of shade. And now we've taken out the tree, so here we are, year 4, we're still learning. And I'm still new at this, so it's gonna be a whole new thing. So I do watch a lot of YouTube videos, and you'll hear me refer to other channels and so forth. And some people say, oh, that's your competition. And no, it's not competition. This is more information. And the better information you can get, the more information you can get, the better off we all are. And, you know, if you watch my channel, great, I'm learning. If you can learn or be inspired or just be entertained by what goes on here, I think that's great. The reason for this video, as I've already said, is for my own information, so I can look back and see what I did. But I do spend time on YouTube regularly watching gardening and homesteading videos. And one of the things I'm noting is the time to start planting onions is when a lot of those gardeners begin to do videos about planting onions. It's a good sign. And so, you know, it's going to be different for different regions of the country. For me, when I look up my average my average last frost date for Destin, Florida, it comes out to March 14th. That's my average last frost. And the directions on here say to plant indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your average last frost. And so I take March 14th, I count back 6 to 8 weeks, comes out to about the end of January to the middle of January. And so I'm going to go with 8 weeks because this year I'm fully intending to let these grow as much as I can and before I put them out in the garden. And I'm also intending to plant these out in a bunch of different places. They're not going to be one bed of onions for these. They're going to go in a lot of places, so I want them to grow up as big as I can get them in the seed starting trays before they get put out into the jungle. The jungle is a little harder on them. There are pests out there, things that will eat them, things that will damage them. Well, not onions. Onions have a tendency to keep pests away. And so if we can get this to the point where we can put it out right around the frost date, last frost date, then they will help keep things away from the other plants. And I'll even put onions in beforehand. There's already a bunch of garlic out there which does the same thing. They're already working on keeping pests away. In fact, I've got a bed of garlic that we're going to harvest in either late June or early July that right now is growing to clear that bed of some pests. They don't like garlic, so they're going to be clearing out because when I harvest the garlic, tomatoes will go in, and there are pests that love tomatoes, but they won't be there. The garlic will have shooed them away. Well, same thing with these. I will be planting garlic in the pepper bed. If you've looked at any of our garden tours, you know we've got a bunch of we have a bunch of pepper plants, one set growing in a raised bed. Here recently we had to cover them for the cold. There are several out in grow bags out front, and so we might intersperse these onions all through those peppers. Peppers aren't as bad, but they do have pests. Things will eat their leaves, slugs and so forth will get to them. But tomatoes especially. I'm going to be planting a number of these in the tomato beds, in the cucumber beds. Where else? Melon beds. Oh my goodness, I'd love to get some of these in melon beds. So if I can get these growing up, you know, a foot tall, where I can put them in the ground and they're already tough, ready to go, then that's going to help everything else growing out there. And I'll have these in the ground before any of that other stuff. Now, as far as putting them in before other stuff, I'm not too worried about a frost coming with onions because onions can handle a mild frost. It can take a little bit. If I miscalculate and we have a late frost here in Florida, it may get to 32 degrees, 31 degrees. I doubt it, but it might get as low as 30 degrees. It hadn't done that in March in a very long time. Not than the time we've lived here in Destin, which is a little over 5 years now. But these things can handle the cold, and they can take care of themselves. So these will be going out, getting their roots, getting established, getting rid of pests before we put in the cucumbers, the beans. That was the other thing I was trying to think of. Beans, melons, tomatoes. These are going to be there before all that, so they can start doing their work early. So not only do we have a great food to eat to add to other recipes, we also have another method here to get rid of other pests. And if I can end up with a few hundred onions to boot, well, that would just be a successful year, wouldn't it? We'd be very excited. So, anyway, that is as far as when to plant. And you got to kind of count back, figure out your last frost date, count back 6 to 8 weeks. That's when you want to plant those seeds. Once they get so tall, put them in the ground. And they're ready to go. Now, as far as time to harvest, these do vary. I see 115 days to harvest, 80 days to harvest, 95 days to harvest. Some of these grow and develop a little faster. And like this Granax Yellow says 80 days to harvest. That's interesting. It's a very short, well, on the back it says 80 to 109. And it will grow up somewhere around the summer solstice, which is going to be June 21st or 22nd. You can ask Google when's the summer solstice. That's going to be the day that's the longest, and these things will start to take off. 10 to 12 hours of sun, I think, is the general rule of thumb for short day. As soon as they start getting that, they are happy and ready to start bulbing. And so at that point, you have two choices. Actually, you have a few choices. Number one, you can always cut off the greens and use green onions, because what's the green onion? They have great tops. And if you need green onions, go cut them. Now, I have a whole bunch of Egyptian walking onions. You can see that in my garden tours. That's what we use for our green onions. But tops of these can be used for green onions as well. Some gardeners, I know M.I. Gardener and someone else I recently saw, will actually come in and cut the tops off of these to help encourage growth. And it will cause more layers to grow in the bulb and, of course, get bigger. So you can cut the tops off of these. You can harvest the onion at any time. It doesn't matter if the onion's this big or if the onion is this big. You can harvest these things at any time. Now, interestingly enough, these things will survive in the garden for a long time. So if their tops are still green and they haven't bent themselves over, then you can leave them and harvest another one that has bent over. Just leave them in the garden. It's very cool because they will continue to live and thrive and be the happy onions they're supposed to be as long as they have green tops. And then when they bend over, I tell you, I think I've waited as much as 2 weeks to pull onions with the tops that are bent over. I did have a little success 3 years ago. I want to say we had like 4 onions that finally grew. But that's been my last success. No, I think it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, somewhere in there. It was one of my first 2 years we had a few onions. But so when to harvest would be when you're ready. And for us, I know Mrs. Bowtie will say, I need an onion for such and such dish, and we'll go get an onion if we don't have it in storage. And so, yeah, and in this video, I'd like to deal with all that. Okay, so we're talking about planting these onions and in soil, and you want to have a decent seed starting mix. Now, folks, there's a jillion sources for seed starting mix. You can make your own. You can buy some. You can get some from a friend. There's just a lot of ways to create seed starting mix. And this right here, this is actually some seed starting mix from a former planting project. It's got a little bit of perlite in it. It's got some of this, you see the blue bag back here. It's got the potting mix in it, which I like. This Stay Green is not expensive. I get it at my local Lowe's, and it's been consistent, which I have had a lot of trouble with consistency. Now, I would love to be able to go buy the top dollar stuff, but frankly, I've actually seen as good a results with this as I could expect from anything else. One of my absolute favorite videos from Gardener Scott was when he compared the growth from some high dollar soil to some average soil to this low dollar soil. And this brand right here, which I had been using, I was so excited because he actually had some really good success on some of his crops with this blue Stay Green stuff. Now, there's no sponsorship here. It's just the stuff that I like to use. But it's this blue Stay Green stuff did him really good for one of his crops. I wish I could remember which one, but I was very excited about that because, well, it's good news. Now, as far as the nutrients are concerned, nutrients you can modify. You can improve the nutrients, and that's kind of what I have right here in this Dr. Earth's bag. This is also something I get from Lowe's. I like this stuff for seed starting. It's got the nutrients it needs to get roots and green stuff going. If you look at the NPK, the nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, this NPK is very important, number one, because it kind of gives you an overview of what this is good for. And I have my rule of broken thumb. When you're looking at NPK, the rule of broken, and call it a rule of broken thumb because it's not perfect, but it's kind of general. You've got shoots, roots, and fruits. So if you're looking to have green stuff grow, you want more of the nitrogen. If you want more roots to grow, you want more of the phosphorus. If you want more of fruits to grow, you want more of the potassium. Now, potassium comes later. we want to start these. We want roots and fruits. I'm sorry, roots and shoots, which is the first two numbers. I really like the roots number on this. I've had a lot of luck with this stuff for all my seeds starting, and I don't put a lot of this in, but it does really good. Now, another thing that I do, you can see I've got peat moss here. I do like peat moss because it gives you a very fluffy, and you can see here, if I turn the camera down, you can see how fluffy this stuff is. It's like a lot of air in there. And this stuff will actually expand quite a bit to make up your soil. This stuff is completely organic. It's completely, I'm saying organic. I mean, it's 100% organic material. And you can see here, this stuff will just blow away if I blew on it. But this is a really good seed starting base, and specifically for onions, I like it because it will give the onions plenty of room to develop and grow. And especially when we put them in the garden, we want fluffy soil, and we've got fluffy soil in the garden. But this stuff here, it is the fluffiest thing. It really allows those onions to develop their roots and eventually their bulbs. Ideally, I'd love to wait until these actually have tiny bulbs just starting at the base to actually put them in the ground. Now, there are some little sticks and little things in here that I take out as I go through here. Like there's a little stick, just a little piece of stick from something. But for the most part, it is extremely fluffy stuff, and I love this stuff. It's good stuff. Good base for any soil. Now, I'm going to add to this, I'm going to add a little bit of the Stay Green potting mix. In fact, I'm going to put about the same amount in that I put of this peat moss. Now, this stuff is dark. I love the color of it. It has good smell. Now, I think it does smell good. I've had a little bit of something, that white stuff. I don't know if you can actually see it in there. There's a white powder in there that I think may be some fungal growth or mildew or something, but you know what? It's all part of that biome. I have a feeling that these bags may have been sitting at my Lowe's a little longer than I might want, but it is still good quality stuff. And you can see it also, just like the peat moss, has little sticks in it. And I'll pick out any bigger pieces. But in my experience, this Stay Green has been the most consistent stuff, bag to bag, that I have found in the price range. And I bought a few different brands. I have not bought an exhaustive exhaustive number of brands, but I have bought a few. There are a few generic brands that I bought, and one bag may be fantastic, and then the next bag is full of sand. And so, which sand is very heavy. So it's very hit and miss sometimes. And so when I find a product that has the consistency that this Stay Green has, I am very excited. I think I need a little more of this potting mix. But basically, we're coming down to just a really, oh, see, look, there's a couple of big pieces of stick. A really light and fluffy mix that these roots are going to, number one, be able to have good contact with the soil to grow in and give strength to the plant and do its thing. But number two, so it can get nutrients, it can develop, it can expand its roots. It has plenty of room to do that. So this is, in fact, here, watch this. You can see this is, as I blow on it, this stuff is very fluffy. So this makes a good seed starting mix. Now, the next thing that I generally put into my seed starting mix is a little bit of perlite. Now, perlite, I get this from the big box. I'm getting down to the end, so there's a little more fine stuff, but this is a really, again, very light. You can see the puff of possibly cancerous, whatever, cancer-causing stuff. No, it is warned against breathing this stuff. If you're using it a lot, you should be sure to use a mask. But it almost feels like styrofoam, but it's a natural, volcanically expanded mineral. And what it does is it creates drainage in this soil. Now, if I just pour water in here, this stuff will hold on to soil. A lot of organic matter in here with this peat moss. And so I want to give it a chance to have a little bit more drainage. So when you add this to the soil, it creates quite a bit of drainage. And so I put in that's not all I'm going to put in. I'm going to mix it. I'm not crazy about the dust that this stuff raises, but you can see there's a little bit of white. Yeah, I definitely need a little more. And you know, I've played with these mixes over the past few years. I've used a lot more perlite. I've used less perlite. And I don't, excuse me, a little dust in there. I have not found that, you know, some perfect mix. I haven't found one year to be significantly better because I use more or less or whatever. I generally like to get about what you can see there. That's kind of the consistency, maybe a tad more perlite in there. But this is really fluffy. It's got good drainage. It's not going to waterlog the plants. And it's just going to do good for us. So see, there's a little piece of bark. But anyway, so the mix is important here. Now, the last thing I do here is this Dr. Earth's. And I'm not going to put that much in there. Now, number one, as far as fertilizing, your seedlings are not going to need a ton of fertilizing, because in that seed is all the nutrients it needs to grow up to a certain point, and then it starts getting energy from the sun. And then as those roots develop, it's going to start getting energy from the soil as well. So it's not even going to use the nutrients in here at the beginning, which is great because this is a longer term feeding solution. So in about a month, this stuff is going to start being broken down to where these seedlings can start to grow. And so, I don't know, I have a few tablespoons in here, and I'm going to mix that in. Now this is organic stuff, and I do like the organic plant food because it's very difficult to burn a plant. Now if you're using chemical plant foods, you really need to follow the directions. It will give very specific instructions on how much to use for seedlings, for whatever, for the various types of things. And you really have to follow it, because if you use too much chemical in your soil, you can burn those seedlings too much. Organic stuff typically will not burn your seedlings. It will do a lot better for them and feed them more appropriately at the right time. I strongly encourage using organic stuff if you are able, because it's just, I've just had a lot of success with it. So that's my mix. Now, we've got peat moss, we've got soil in that stay green stuff, we've got perlite to help with drainage, we've got feed. Now the only thing remaining, what's the important thing here that we're missing? That's going to be water, and we need to pre-soak this. And onions need a nice moist environment to thrive in as these seedlings are going to grow. So we need a little bit of water in here, and we're going to, I have some water here. Now, if all you have is tap water, don't just think you can't do it, okay? Tap water will work. It may not work quite as good. I don't know if it's even noticeable. Our water here in Destin is actually pretty good as far as other stuff in it. It does, if you have a city system, there are chemicals in it, and those chemicals do have a tendency to cause challenges with growing things. This water here I actually got from my irrigation system, and if you have an irrigation system off of a well, you can actually go in, there's a faucet on there that you can hook a hose to, and you open that faucet, turn on the irrigation pump for a few moments, and fill a water thing, and it's natural water, no chemicals, well, whatever's not in the water system. It's a lot cleaner and a lot better than the city water that you're going to find. But anyway, so the last thing here is water, and you need to include water in here because if you can get this pre-soaked, it will actually do better in the long run. Now, pre-soaking. This stuff, especially this peat moss, okay, the peat moss is the worst about it, and this kind of a downside of the peat moss is that it is actually what they call hydrophobic, and it resists soaking up water. If I just poured a whole bunch of peat moss in this water in this bag of peat moss, you would be amazed. It would just float on top for an hour. It would do nothing. It would take a very long time to soak up the water. And so you got to kind of go in here and carefully make sure to incorporate this water. Now look at that. See that water just draining out? And I've got some dry stuff in my hand right now. There's dry stuff in there. And so it does need to soak a little while and get that water incorporated into, especially the peat moss. The perlite in there. Now, perlite does maintain a little moisture as well. Not as much as something called vermiculite, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but the perlite does hold on to water and does help incorporate. So what happens here, because I mixed the soil in, now the soil that came out of that stay green bag was actually already a little bit moist, which is good because it's not hydrophobic. So that soil that's mixed in here is going to hold it right next to the peat moss, and eventually the peat moss will eventually accept the moisture. And so with the mix in here, it actually got a whole bunch of advantage in here to getting a nice moist soil. And so I'm going to go through here and you can see I'm pouring in water. You can see it's getting wet on the side. It's moist up to about there right now. But the level of moisture is very important to get good and consistent throughout, because those seeds, once they come in contact with the good moist soil, they're going to do a whole lot better. I'm starting to see this is incorporating better. As I'm reaching into the bottom with my big spoon here, I'm pulling up moist stuff, I'm putting it on top, and moisture is draining through the wet again, and it's getting wetter and wetter and wetter every time I do this. I know some people use something like a cement mixer to do this with. Makes it very easy. If you got a cement mixer around, try it out. I've been very impressed with that. I don't have a cement mixer, and simply put, I'm not going to go buy or rent a cement mixer. There's a stick. See, I'm keeping an eye out for little sticks as well. I think I'm coming down to about enough water. And I know some people are a lot better at judging the water. What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to squeeze. Oh, see, now there's a lot of moisture coming out of there, but it's still not incorporated real good. You want to be able to squeeze and real hard and very little moisture come out. Now, if you do get it too moist, when you put it in your seedling tray, the seedling tray has a drip hole in the bottom. It will drain down to the right amount of moisture. And so this water, you know, the biggest thing is don't stress about getting the exact, you know, picometers of water per pound of soil, because it's nature. See, there's a lot of water coming out of there still. So some of that's going to drain off when I start planting it, and it's going to equalize itself. So I've got plenty of water in there. Maybe a tad too much. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But I do want the finest material I can get in here because I want the seeds to come in contact with this as much as possible. If you have a lot of big stuff, for instance, if you just took large sticks and stuck a single seed in it, well, the seed would end up sitting on a stick and have very little contact, very little ability to take up water. If it's completely surrounded by a bunch of very, very small matter, it has a lot more opportunity to soak up the water it needs to activate and shoot out a plant. And so it's just the material that we put in here becomes very important. That peat moss is very pliable. That any organic material is very pliable and will encapsulate and cause more water to be held against that seed longer and more advantageously. So now we have a really good mix, and I've mixed it a little more than I probably need to. You can't overmix it, that's for sure. But anyway, we're going to come down here. We're going to start filling one of our seed trays. Now this is a very cheap Jiffy seed tray from, I think these may have come from Ace Hardware. I'm not positive, but it is nothing special. However, there are better seed trays out there. Now I take very good care of these. I have had these, one of these seed trays came from my youngest son as a Christmas gift like 4 Christmases ago. So, or 3 Christmases ago maybe. Anyway, I take very good care of these, so they last a long time, and just, I'm a cheapskate. I'll admit, I am a cheapskate. But I'm going through, filling all these up, and you'll see I'm kind of just not really doing it very hard, because look, there's it just sunk in about, I don't know. So yeah, getting rid of the air pockets. It's very loose in here, and you want to have it, you don't want, I'm not packing it down. I'm not putting pressure on this at all. It is rather loosely packed in there, but obviously you can see here, this thing sank down almost a full inch. Some of these, especially when you're filling them like this, oh, look here. I didn't even fill this one. But you do want them to have a bit of packiness to them. Let's call them packiness. There we go. But I'm going to go through here and make sure these are somewhat filled with soil. And I'm just literally tapping with my fingers, removing any more sticks that I find. See, look at that. That's what, and you're going to find the sticks in just about any soil. But I'm just making sure that it has a good amount of soil in it because it needs a good base to grow in. By the time I plant these out, these little cells are going to be full of roots. Ideally, they'll have roots just starting to grow through the outside of the cells and have enough roots to create good contact with the soil that it gets planted into in the garden to where it suddenly just shoots out roots everywhere and grows it. Now, mind you, onions do not have big root systems. They really don't. They only use, I heard, anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of soil. It's not a lot. So, yeah. And I'm not packing this hard. I'm going to do one just so you can see how hard I'm going to push this one right here all the way in. See? Ooh, I think I may have just cracked it. I pushed it another over half an inch there. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to bear down on these. You want light, fluffy stuff that's going to fill any major air gaps in the thing. Now, let's see here. Did I just bust that? No, I didn't. It just crunched. but just light, fluffy soil. And make sure it's in there somewhat. And again, folks, these seeds, they want to grow. They really do. So don't stress too much over getting these exactly right. The big thing is anybody can do this. Literally anybody. Our big joke between me and Mrs. Bowtie, as of about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a brown thumb. She had a crispy dead thumb because she killed more plants than I did. But we've done a lot better now and are figuring things out. You can learn. Watch these YouTube videos. It's good information out there. It's very easy to get good information. One of my favorite sets of videos, I have it on the front page of my YouTube channel. There is a playlist called Growing Tomatoes, and it's, I think, 3 or 4 videos that I started with from Just Sowards. And they got me started with tomatoes. I learned how to do tomatoes from those videos, those exact videos. Not videos like them, those exact videos. And so it's one of the reasons why I like to mention some of these others, because if you're coming along here wanting to learn how to grow onions and you would like more information, I want to give you good quality places with good information, good people trying to get the message out, trying to encourage people, trying to inspire people. And frankly, if this encourages anyone to grow a single plant, I'm happy. It's a good thing. So anyway, I've got a whole tray, 72 cells here. No, is this 72? 2, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 60 cells. I don't know. However many cells this is full of them. Now, I'm not going to be putting just one seed in each one of these cells. I'm going to be putting between 4 and 6 seeds in each cell. That one older packet that I have, I might go with 7 or 8 in there, but just simply because I don't know that I'm going to get a whole lot of growth. Because they are slightly older, and they're just slightly older seeds, folks. Don't give up on them. Just slightly older seeds. So first things first, you need a good place to put these out, and I'm going to use this, folks, okay, so I went to the local Goodwill and I bought a bunch of these lids. I use these as cloches over things in the garden. Sometimes if I'm trying to seed stuff, I can use them as a place to put onion seeds, and wow, there's not very many in there. Oh well, a lot less than I thought. And I think this is like $2. And so gives me a nice place I can see. Now these seeds are little tiny black seeds, and I might be putting 7 in each one of these cells, between 6 and 7. The nice thing about onions is they are pretty tough. They do not mind you pulling them apart when they're rooting, when they're young, and separating them to plant out into the garden. And you really will want to separate them. You're really going to want to, because they simply do not bulb if they're too close together. So like this one here says, as far as planting apart, you want how far between? 18 inches? Wow, that's pretty big. That seems like a lot. I don't know if they're going to get 18 inches in my garden. We have a big enough garden. Okay, so I filled 9 cells with these seeds. I put between, there might be as many as 8 seeds per cell, but I'm just going to put that there until we can label it. This is the other package of seeds that was for 2022. I am going to be planting these pretty thick. And because they do have a limited life and they are kind of easy to get a hold of, if I need to go get more, our Lowe's generally has onion seeds, so I'm not going to hold any of these back, primarily because of the limited lifespan of these seeds. That's my main reason. I did save some seeds from previous year and used them last year. And I had very poor success with them. But you can see there's quite a few seeds in there. That's actually quite a few. I'm going to finish out this section and fill this whole section with these. And again, this is the sweet Spanish yellow Utah jumbo. And I'm saying this on the video because, again, this is my log. I know I will be looking back at this video to figure out where things are. And I'm using them up pretty fast. I'm putting, I don't know, between 6 and 9 seeds per cell. And right now I'm just putting them on top, and you're going to see what happens here afterwards. There's a few different ways to do these. Some people put vermiculite on top, and I might do some of that on these. I've been debating on it. I actually had a little bit of success with a layer of vermiculite on top of my tomato seeds and pepper seeds last year. But I typically had a little more success when I just put the soil on. Okay, so these are going to be growing a bit thick. I am putting them on pretty thick. I'm ending up with some of these cells have maybe 10, 12 seeds in them. So, but the thing is, the seeds are dark, the soil is dark. You just kind of have to trust that the seeds are in there. So I'm going to put this right here. I am going to be coming back and getting labels in here before we're done. You always want to label your seed start trays if you want to know what you're growing, because here's what's going to happen, folks. This is why labeling is so important. Let's just say this thing here, these red onions, they just explode and become these massive onions that we love. And we just really decide, you know, those were so amazing, we want to look for those next year. Well, if we didn't label it, I certainly won't remember it. I'm A.D.D, okay? I record the videos. That's a form of labeling. People can do it in their journals. People put little tags in. I use the little tag method is what I do. But so these red burgundy onions are in these 9 cells. This sweet Spanish yellow Utah jumbo is in these 9 cells in this section here. And see, I'm labeling. I now have a record of where things are and where things are planted. My next kind here are Texas Grano. Now I've tried some Texas Grano before. Last year we had a lot of failure in the garden, and I don't think that it was the fault of, I think there was a lot of things going on. Number one, topmost being, it's a brand new garden and I'm learning the garden. I just didn't have the good soil. We're just building our soil. If you watch our garden tours, you know we had major failures with some crops, major successes with other crops. So, and the soil was, I think, the biggest challenge. Figuring out how to water things. The big tree that we had removed, that's another massive problem. Okay, yeah, I think I filled that row, but I'm going to go back. And so, yeah, you can plant these as thickly as you want to. I'm sure there is a limit. With my success rate, though, I might get 2 out of each cell. Just my success rate has been terrible. But if I do get 30 plants out of 1 cell, it really is okay, because you can we'll show later how we can take those seedlings out, dip them in water, you just pull them up, they just come apart, and you can plant them separately then. Onions are one of those plants that just simply does not mind being fiddled with after it's got roots. So this next one is the Granex Yellow PRR Hybrid. Now this is a hybrid. I definitely will not be saving seeds from this. Whenever you're dealing with hybrids, seed saving is not a great idea, though. Hey, if you want to save seeds and try it, by all means, do so. Just know that you're not sure what you're going to get. It may not be the same thing. It might be something completely different. Now, none of these say heirloom. I am presuming, because they don't say hybrid, that they are a stable cultivar. So just something to keep in mind, especially when you get to the seed saving point. If you're wondering about seed saving, I've got some videos on seed saving cucumbers, tomatoes. What else did I say? Oh, I saved seeds from all those pomegranates. Remember the pomegranates? I saved seeds from the beans that we liked so much. Yeah, when you get a crop that you like, save the seeds. You can save yourself a lot of money in the future, and just save seeds, because it should still work, especially if it's not a hybrid. If it's I generally like getting heirloom stuff, but when you go to the big box store, you don't always have the choice. So, all right. Let me get a few labels done. Okay, so I've made enough labels here. Remember, this section here and this here are all this, and you see what I do here. Sweet Spanish Yellow Utah Jumbo, planted 1/15/2023. Now, these little labels that I get are actually cut up pieces of my almond milk jugs, which is what I drink. I actually take this section off of here and I cut them in slices. And I keep this curve on here, and what I have discovered, if I just write here, the sun will fade my Sharpie Extreme a little faster than I want it to, but if I write it on the bottom side in here, the sun doesn't fade this side because it's protected a little better. And they last about twice as long when I write on just this underside. So I've got everything labeled here. Now remember, I still have the seeds sitting on top of this soil. We don't want to leave it like that. We're going to have to come in here and cover those. Now, if you look at these, it says 1/4 inch, I believe, 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, depending on whichever we're doing. All of these actually say 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. This is 1/4 to 1/2, and this here is 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do here, now there's a couple things you can do here. Some people will just come in and stir the soil up a little bit and get them in there. That's a little random. I'm a little bit OCD, and I'm not crazy about that idea, because I know some of those seeds, in fact I can see a few of those seeds didn't even go in. So stirring them around, I'm not sure if it's that great. Some people will actually come in with a pin of some kind and actually push down each one of them and make sure they get under the soil. That, in my mind, is a little bit better, not perfect. The next option is to come through here and actually cover this with soil, and you'll see there's actually, all the soil is down just a little bit from the top. So this edge right here, I'm going to consider the berry depth, and if I go in here and just simply add some soil to the top here, very carefully, very gently, and spread it out. There's another stick. Sticks are just a part of seed starting mix. Get used to it. And I'm kind of just eyeballing this. But the fact that they say 1/4 to 1/2 inch tells me that it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. So if I come in here and get this thing mounded up just a little bit here, it should, and again, this is moist soil because we pre-moistened it. I go through here and just make sure everything is covered over. In my non-working brain, it just seems the most logical to me. how this works. Now vermiculite, I talked about vermiculite briefly, about covering these, and it would be doing the exact same thing with vermiculite. Now vermiculite is very light and fluffy stuff, but it holds moisture fantastic. It's phenomenal what it does. And I will use vermiculite on some other stuff here later, but it just pours on like a powder, and then you mist the top of it and it's done. It stays moist. It does a really incredible job, and I've actually experimented with that. Personally, I have had more success doing this than with the vermiculite, and so today I am feeling comfortable with soil. See, here's a couple of cells I didn't even get covered. So everything is pretty much filled even to the top of these trays. I feel confident I have between a quarter and a half inch of soil on top. All those seeds are still in place, and that's one of the things I like about covering over. All those seeds are still pretty much in place. They may move around a little bit, but it's not going to be a lot, and they're going to be able to take off. So that is our onion seeds planted. Yay! Final thing is watering and moisture. These things will want to stay moist. They're going to want to stay humid. They're going to want to have an environment for those seeds to germinate. So these humidity domes are very important, because you can put this over and it will actually seal in well enough, and I might actually end up have to put one of these spoons on top of there to hold it in, but they will hold in enough moisture to keep this thing ready to germinate. Now these things will start germinating pretty fast. I'm hoping within a week. So I plan to do my next video on this as soon as a significant number of these is germinating, and we will have lights ready for the new leaves that are popping up, because they're going to be searching for sunlight. And I actually keep these inside the house where it is a very consistent temperature. They like a good consistent temperature, especially at this point when they want to grow. If I do need to water them, if I do, what's going to happen is all I'm going to do is take my water and I'm going to water the bottom of this thing. In fact, actually, I want to see if any of it's dripping out. I don't think any has. Oh, there's a few drips of water in there from the soil that was a little too moist. But when you're ready to water, you're going to pour water underneath here. Let me just do it with this out. That ain't working. You're going to pour water in here, and you're going to get a little bit down here, enough to where it's touching the bottom of those cells and it can soak up. Now, this is the cool thing. The soil knows how much it needs. You don't have to sit there and force it. It knows how much it needs, and it will soak up what it needs to grow those seeds. So, if I put in, I think I've got like 1/8 of an inch in there, and it's going to soak up, if it needs any more, into the soil. And those seeds are going to be able to take off. So, this is the point at which I start sweating, because I want a lot of onions this year. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I'm a relatively new gardener. I'm learning right here along with you. But this is ready. It's going to go indoors. Let's go see the place I'm putting it. So this is what we use for our seed starting trays. This is where we put the things that are the smallest plants. They will grow up. In fact, you can actually see back when we were growing the peppers in August of last year, the taller plants were going up here on top. I actually have hooks here at the very top to hang grow lamps. I actually put grow lamps in this shelf to shine down on the bottom, and we will be doing that as soon as these start germinating. But this is in our dining room. It's the place where we always walk through here. It's a lot of traffic, and one of the biggest troubles I had last year, and one of the biggest challenges with why we killed so many plants, is because out there in the Florida room, I didn't get out there every morning. I didn't see those plants every morning. Up here, I'm going to see these things every morning. I go get my breakfast. I go get my coffee. We go by this table all the time. It's in the flow of traffic, and so this is a good place. I'll see it. I'll think about it. My A.D.D brain out there in the Florida room forgot about things and had a little bit of challenge, and I know I didn't water it as consistently as it should be, but in here I will water it, and I'm going to have a can of water right here all the time, so I can just take care of these immediately when I need to. I've left the spoon on here to make sure that the cover stays somewhat sealed. Chances are I'll see some condensation on this within 24 hours, or maybe 48 hours, but there will be extra moisture in there. Hopefully here within a week or two, we're going to start seeing onions, baby onions, and that will be an exciting day. I would love to see hundreds of baby onions in there. We'll have to see what happens. So again, you're learning along with me, just trying to figure this out and find the successes. If you're watching this someday in the future, look at the end of the video, and there should be a link to either the playlist and or the next part of this video series in growing onions. So let's see if we have some success, and I can't wait for the time when this whole series can be done on onions, and see if we get some success. Because if I get another failure year, I'm going to be disappointed. So, but my name is Bowtie Dave. I am a 4th-year gardener now, and learning things, successes and failures. If you're just stumbling along our channel, thanks for watching, and please subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this series. And if you already have subscribed and you're coming back again, I'd so appreciate you watching. We are trying to build the channel, and the number of subscribers helps. Another thing that you can do, and these are free things you can do, free, doesn't cost you anything. Hit the subscribe button. You can click the thumbs up on this video. If you found this entertaining, educational, or informational, or just plain silly, feel free to click that thumbs up down there, and that helps YouTube know that you found some value in it. Another thing you can do is you can share it on social media. If you have friends that like gardening and like information and like learning this kind of stuff, because it is a continual process. I'm very impressed with people like Gardener Scott, who's been doing this for decades, but he's still learning stuff. He's still playing with stuff. He's still experimenting. He's still telling people, go experiment, figure things out. You got to do this. And it's very easy. It can be fun. Eventually you'll have a success. And all the pepper plants outside are our success. So it's a good thing. So again, free things you can do to help grow the channel that cost you absolutely nothing. And keep an eye out for the rest of our videos. Hope you're having a great new year. I know we're 15 days into it now, so I guess Happy New Year after today will be passé. So, but something that's not passé is what I always say at the end of all my videos. Have a blessed day.